Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Ayesha Laatoe. You probably know who I am by now. I'm going to lie. I say I've read the entire book. But since I purchased it, I read some of the pages of the book. Giving lots of credit not just to the author, but I think the fact that we have such few authors within our community, and not just because you're my cousin, but the fact that, Fawzia Friday, you are this one person who just simply love children. And I could relate to this because we were at one of the fairs one day and you were walking with your Musalla, and my daughter admired and said, you asked her, how old are you and what is your name? She said, my name is Zainab, I'm 6 years old. You said to her, this is your Muslim. My daughter still treasures it up until today, alhamdulillah. So coming back to this book, subhanallah, I've read, and you've made reference to Piaget, and you've said that you must have read some of the scriptures of the Quran, subhanallah. So I say to myself, you know what? If you find that there's a scientist today who says that he does not know about the Quran, then I think it is pure ignorance, because Islam is the fastest growing religion, and you've taken the content of this book to a different level. Not having a child of your own, but having been an educator for many years, having researched for so many years, and to make parenting so easy for parents, subhanallah, not just from ages 1, to up until a certain age, but you start right at the beginning when the child is still in the uterus, subhanallah. And I think that is the most important part, because this is where the child connects with you as a mother. And I think many of us aren't aware that, which parts of the fetus first develops, and those are the parts that have that memory, your heart, your brain. And you've mentioned, how the hooks comes onto the brain and how the child remembers, subhanallah. And this brings me to recently when one of the hafidas, she graduated as a hafida and she was pregnant and she lost the baby, and I said to myself, subhanallah, this baby must have known the language of the Quran while this mommy was, busy reciting her last, and, having been tested. Was the Quran too much for this child to bear? As Allah granted this child to be, the door to Jannah for this parent, subhanallah. And so, this book in essence gives you that understanding. It's good that you say from the kitchen to the classroom and beyond, because I think I'm beyond because I'm the grandmother here, but I can relate, and you can teach you take this book and you need to make notes with this book. It's not just a read. It's like people often say that, no child comes with a textbook. But when we look at the Quran and the Sunnah, definitely there's guidance for us from the Prophet ﷺ, there's guidance from the Quran, subhanallah. So as Muslims, we should always be that forerunners, and I commend you, I applaud you, for penning this book, for being the author of such an amazing book, my cousin. It prides me to say that you're my cousin. It prides me to know that we have not just followers, but forerunners, and women are by nature nurturers. Not having our own children, but being that nurturer to make sure that moms know how to raise their children. This book is absolutely amazing. It's a must-have. It's such a cheap buy. It's not one to be on your shelf. It's one to have, in your kitchen, because you can refer to this at any time, subhanallah. Very important, and I think this book is not just a book for the parent. Yes, indeed, the mom is the first teacher, that first lab is the first university of the child, but also in this book it speaks about the father's involvement, with the development as well, because we learn that how daughters develop, how sons develop, and that is very important when you have both parents, and I applaud the parents nowadays where there's that understanding where we must do things together. So when this book is on your pedestal, it's a book for both of you to read and to understand and to discuss what it is that you can implement from this book, and also maybe when there's a certain area when you have your teenagers, to read it and read it aloud. Make that circle in the evening or once a week, and then read from the passages of this book and see how you can implement it. And this is how we're going to develop a stronger society, a stronger home environment for our children, a stronger community, and especially when it comes to our morals and conduct as Muslims, always to be that example to others. And coming, back to when you mentioned about cognitive development and integration, which is important of various ages, but I think also integration of maybe what we define children as being, what they always say, they have a disability, but we often fail to see the ability in those children. And I think this book will really bring out that negative mindset, to see that ability instead of the disability in our children as well, and see how they can develop and to work on what is working and not what you want to work with in a child. Every child is born upon a fitra, and so we must develop that fitra with the child as well. We need to encourage and work on the strong points of the child, and not trying to enforce what we want the child to know. And I think this is where many times people who does homeschooling gets it right, because the child can thrive on what the child loves, subhanallah, and that child develops in such an holistic manner that he knows how to carry himself as an adult, alhamdulillah. So heads up and a thumbs up and a scarf of nuts, hats off to you, my cousin. So shukran so much for this book. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.